Thank you for tuning in to another Brewnomics interview series at the Lounge at the End of the Universe. I'm Jerry.
I'm Vic.
And today we have a special guest with us, Dan.
Dan Balluff with City Peanut Shop downtown.
There we go. City Peanut Shop. They have great nuts. We're going to get into that here in a bit. But first, it's a beer show. What do?
We're going to drink beer.
We're going to drink some
All
beer.
right.
All right. I'm going to pour one for us real quick since we don't have a beer pourer for us. So,
Yeah. So, Dan, we were kind of talking a little bit before the show, and we were kind of talking about interesting beer and nut pairings. So, Jerry's going to pour for us this, I believe it's called the Evil Twin Brewing's Wet Dream, correct? Which is a brown ale with coffee in it. So, we're going to try to pair that with, you recommended a Brittle, or...
Yeah, we have a Stout nut brittle. I'd normally pair that with more of a sweet peanut, we have a sweet and salty beer nut style brewer's nut, but that's not here. But I have
I know. I'm just sort of.
So we can always get back into that a little later if we wanted to.
Sure. Yeah.
Brittle. That's really good stuff.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that part. I'm very excited to get into that.
Can't keep my eyes off the beer.
Well, there you go.
have you had beer from Evil Twin Brewing before?
I have not.
They're out of Stanford, Connecticut. They always brew these really fancy, sweet, rich style beers, kind of in line with, I don't know if you've had like a decadent ale, but if you ever want a good like dessert or conversation beer, Evil Twin's a great brewery to go to.
I've heard of them. I was in Connecticut last year and looked around at the breweries. I didn't go to that one. Well, that is a nice flavor.
That is an intense smell.
Very intense.
Wow,
yeah.
that is super, super malty. Obviously, it's a brown with coffee, so it's pretty dark.
Yeah, I'm really getting that espresso kind of taste in there.
Yeah. Coffee notes coming through very strongly.
It's a good beer to start the day with. Like, you can drink this at 6:30 in the morning, and it's fine. There's coffee in it.
You do you. Yeah.
I mean, we're working from home now for the most part, huh?
Eh,
Not all of us.
no
but-
one's going to know.
So,
What's the ABV on this, Jerry?
I believe it's right at 6%.
Okay, very nice.
So, pretty easy squeezy. Not mad at all. Not mad at all. Hey, there's Paula.
Hi.
All right, well, let's get into it, huh? Let's talk about Dan and the City Peanut Shop in downtown Boise.
Yeah, so Dan, how did you get started? We know that you were inspired by your father to start a peanut shop. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit more and tell us how you came to be in Idaho?
Yeah,
Start the City Peanut Shop.
I ended up in Idaho in 1981. I think I moved here and ended up working in high tech for a long time, and then took an early retirement because I wanted to do some other things, try some other things. I had a great career after living in Amsterdam. I just wanted to kind of do something different, so I worked for a Japanese company for a couple of years, or about a year. Went over to helped a Dutch and German company get started here in Boise that does a lot of work in high tech. And then things were starting to slow down with that, and I had a real bug to try to do something entrepreneurial, and I'd never done it before, and I thought, you should try that. You should do something. And I was going to do something with craft beer, maybe a bottle shop or something, and looked into it and realized I was better at drinking beer than trying to organize it and sell it to people. And my father would always say when he came to Boise, you should open a peanut shop in Boise. Everybody loves a peanut shop. And so it was kind of a family joke for 20 years. So I thought, well, maybe I should. So I started looking into it and thought it was something that could be refreshed and modernized, because there used to be about 200 shops around the country in the 30s through into the 60s and 70s. And I thought the good quality, healthy products like that never go out of style, so let's try to do something and make it more modern and more fun. So,
Excellent. And when did you start the City Peanut Shop in Boise?
just over 10 years ago.
Okay.
It'll be 11 years in October. So, and in the same place right at downtown at 8th and Bannock Street.
So you started in 2009. That
Yeah.
has to be a rough time to open a business. I know we weren't
is.
necessarily popping economically as a country
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah, that kind of gave me confidence, because if you start at the bottom, you've got a lot of growth ahead of you.
Very
And I
true.
kind of took that as a sign, that I could, if I don't have real high expectations to begin with, just do something good quality, good hardcore quality products, never go out of style. And I thought if I keep grinding away at it, we'll eventually get there. And it was a little scary. People didn't understand the concept in Boise of what a nut shop was, because it's really a southwest or southeast and east coast, Midwest kind of a thing. So the category wasn't here, but I really didn't know what I was doing, but I knew what I wanted to do, and so I made it happen, and it was fun.
Well, you've obviously had a lot of fun with it. I mean, if you guys just hop on their website, or just better yet, pop in the shop, the amount of flavors you guys have now at this point, it's amazing. It's amazing, and it always seems to grow. And it's not just like, roasted peanuts or salted or honey. Like, we got some fun, creative juices flowing here, and we'll dive more into that here in a bit.
Yeah.
This one I am pretty curious, because one thing and why we have you on the show is you have a very tight-knit vibe in the Boise city community everywhere around here. So we kind of want to see from the bottom up where that starts, especially in the shop. So farm to store, where do you source your nuts from, and how do you go? What's kind of your process of creating the different flavors of the different type of nuts?
Well, it's funny, the almonds I get from a local woman whose family runs an almond farm, the old family almond farm in California. She walked in one day and said, "Where do you get your almonds from?" And I said, "Well, I source them from Costco because they're good quality there, raw almonds." And she said, "Well, I can drive them up in my Volkswagen for you from California, from the farm." So they come. I'll get about 1,000 pounds at a time from the family. They bring them up in either the back of a Beetle or in a pickup truck, depending on the volume, and that's really fun. So I know where they come from. I know the family. They're cool people. We have the family on the label from the old picture of the guy who's running it now when he was a kid, and then the peanuts come from Virginia. So I use Virginia Redskin peanuts, which are the most premium kind of a peanut you can get, and it's a larger variety and just really tasty. And so those come from either a broker or a farmer, a distributor or farmer in Virginia, depending on the time. Hazelnuts come from Oregon. Pecans come from Texas and Oklahoma typically, and cashews come from Vietnam.
Wow, you are sourcing those from all over the U.S. and other parts of the world. That is incredible.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun to buy pallets of stuff.
Yeah, definitely in large volumes. How did you come to find the Vietnam cashews?
Well, they grow in that type of a climate, so they come from different areas. But Vietnam tends to process them in a more humane way. There's cashew shells can be harmful, like poison ivy a little bit. There's the husk can damage hands, and so Vietnam's mechanized theirs quite a bit now, so it's a lot better for people.
Huh.
I did not know that. Interesting.
I really wish we could do that old school graphic, the more you know, right across right there.
Very cool. Very cool, yeah.
So it's a lot of fun, and then we just create things with it. So, one of the best things about not having a culinary background getting into this was that I didn't know that I was making mistakes, so I wasn't limited by my education and how to cook, right? So I decided, well, maybe I could just try some of this, throw some of this in there and see how it works. So I tried throwing some cayenne in with some sugar on, and made one called an afterburner, because you didn't taste the cayenne at first, and then it started coming in a little bit later and felt good. And then I started early on using beer ingredients, probably right about the time Payette started up in town here. Just started using malt and hops and other products, and actually the beer itself in with the nuts, and came up with some really good products that we co-branded with Payette, which was really fun. Mike and the crew were really nice about it, so we did some good stuff together.
I feel like that's a perfect segue for them Pistolero Porter nuts and that IPA. Let's get in on that. We just have to. You just led us right into that, Dan. I think I think maybe that was on purpose, huh?
I was thirsty.
So tell us a little bit more about the process of the partnership with these guys if you want, while I kind of get pouring here for
Well,
us.
really, I just asked for a meeting with Mike and his sister Sheila at the time, and we just kind of talked it out and said, hey, I'd like to do this, and we didn't worry about any kind of legalities with it. We just set it up. They liked the product. We incorporated their logo onto the brand, and then we started making them. So I use Centennial hops on these peanuts, and some light malt, and then we pour some Rustler in there while we're cooking it, and it really complements. I think you'll find when we try these that you'll see that the hops on the peanut pulls the hops out in the beer a little more, so it's really complementary. And we actually do a candy bar. It's 55% dark chocolate with that same peanut, and it's really tasty. Thank you.
So we're going to be pairing this usually with an IPA, because it seems like the hops on the hops are going to make quite the nice little complement here. The IPA that we're getting into, this is from E9 out of Tacoma, Washington. This is called the Black Helmet. The name Black Helmet honors all the brave frontline firefighters throughout our great nation and city. This flagship IPA is brewed and massively dry hopped with Citra and Simcoe hops. I promise I can read. The font's really funky on here. A favorite at the firehouse for dozens of years. Cheers. So, hey, that's pretty cool. I didn't realize that was dedicated to their local firefighters. Right on.
That hops comes through really nice on there, doesn't it? They're a little more complex than I expected.
That is a fantastic combination. Yeah, good call, Dan. Yeah, the hops, the nuts really pull the hops out on that one. It's really complementary to each other.
Yeah, the key when we try to do pairings, because we do a first Thursday nut and beer pairing every month, not right now during COVID, but typically, and it's really well attended, but we work hard with the breweries to make things that aren't going to interfere with the flavor of the beer and just complement it instead. And that's the kind of the difficult challenge with pairing and making a product that has some sort of a food ingredient in it, is to not overwhelm what you're trying to do with the product. Same when we work with wineries.
You also work with wineries?
Yeah, I work with Coiled, Talaya, Sawtooth, a bunch of Potter wines I've worked with. I like to hang around with other entrepreneurs and just do stuff that's fun.
Sounds like you got one of the greatest jobs in the world out there.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Collaboration's a great way to work, though. It's way better than trying to be competitive with people. We all push each other to do better, and the brewing community in Boise is just incredible about that. I've noticed that over the years, how supportive they are to each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's one thing that really attracts us to it, and is one of the biggest parts of this podcast that we've enjoyed, is most brewers aren't like, hey, don't go see this brewery. It's like, go see these guys also. They're awesome. If you need help, I'll contact them for you, whatever it may be, so that it really is true collaboration. Everybody wants everybody to succeed, and I absolutely love that. Nothing wrong with a little competition, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But when you're genuinely care and invested with the people around you and you grow together, it just feels that much sweeter, I think.
Yeah, and I try to help them out too as much as I can, because I have the storefront downtown. I give, when we put together holiday gifts and Father's Day gifts, for example, we'll do a pairing, pull it up in a cellophane bag with a pint glass, and it'll be just a nice, easy gift for somebody. So we work hard to try to promote the local guys that we work with, which is almost everybody.
I mean, but there's no more iconic pairing, at least in my opinion, than beer and nuts.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
100%, yeah.
That's as American as it gets, or
100%.
as German as it gets, or whatever. It's just, it's a
Yeah.
cross-cultural, beautiful thing.
Yeah, some about both of those together just, they go so well.
They really do. I love these, because I've stopped by the shop a handful of times, and I usually just buy them in bulk and just keep them there. The Pistolero is the one that whenever people come over, I hide, just because I don't want them to eat it. It's
Yeah.
mine.
I see now. I get it.
And they will.
They absolutely will. All of a sudden, you're like, where did that half-pound bag? You sons of bitches! Those are my nuts.
We have kind of a cure for that. I make a peanut with Carolina Reaper peppers on it,
Ooh.
and called Reapers, and just throw a few in there, and when they accidentally get that one, they'll never reach in again.
There you go.
There'll never be any more theft.
I see that's happened to you before, Dan.
I've done it to a few people, yeah. It's fun.
We told somebody we were doing this at Brewers Haven, and they're like, "Oh, watch out for that Reaper." No, that was the first
Yeah.
thing. they
Literal
said.
conversation
Yeah.
we had today. Yeah.
All right. So,
Thank you.
and I'm curious. We have a few questions. We're not necessarily in order, but there is one I'm a little bit more curious about, mentioning how the sort of research that you do to get your materials, your ingredients, your different variety of nuts, really all over the country and all over the world. We look on your website. I was like, these prices are absurdly affordable. It blows my mind how you're able to do that. Like, it costs, it seems like, less than going to the grocery store and getting a frickin' thing of planters. You work your ass off. These are all made by hand. How do you do that and still maintain, like, a way justifiable price?
You know, I hate to answer that question because it would imply that I'm not a very good businessman, but you know, we just make it work. I want to keep it affordable. Certain products I keep down there. Wildlands mix, because it's got such a broad variety of ingredients, and you know, I use organic maple syrups and stuff like that. I'm starting to bump the prices up on some of those because I'm not always making the margins I want to make.
Sure.
But I'm just able to do it because I really don't pull that much salary out for myself, and honestly, I'm underpriced and should go a little higher on some of those things. But I just like doing it, you know. So I can do it, so I do it. So.
Dan, that's fantastic. We
Good enough,
appreciate
baby.
you.
Good
Yeah,
enough.
that's great.
Absolutely. This is a really good IPA.
It's a great IPA. It's a great nut pairing that we have with those pistoleros, man. I still can't believe that. That's blowing my mind right now.
I really like this beer too. It's just a lot of IPAs are just a little too bitter, and this one's got a lot of complexity in there.
Yeah. Nice.
Kind of
little
rolls around.
Smooth balance too. Do you have a favorite type of beer?
You know, I tend to go towards session beers because I like quantity.
Sure.
Fair point.
If I'm going to have, you know, especially on a hot day, I want 3 or 4 beers. So I go for a good session beer, and I want a nice, crisp, clean finish to it. And so, you know, I've been enjoying. I just ordered a case of Old Boise Lager from Woodland, and I tend to, if it's really hot, I'll drink some good house beer from Powder House, and you know, and I tend to go for some good brown ales, and I like a good fresh hop beer. I look forward to that season every year because they're so damn good.
Absolutely. Oh, I do too. We always have at least 2 or 3 episodes a year dedicated just to fresh hop beer.
Yeah.
As soon as it comes out, because you got to get it while you can. And every year there's something new and exciting to try.
But I tend to pull from my own cooler at work because I support all the locals in that cooler. So that's primarily where my beer comes from. And I'm a big fan of 208 from Grand Teton because it's a summer. Right now, all I'm thinking about are those summer beers, and that's one of my favorites.
Absolutely. It's too hot to be drinking a lot of like stouts and porters and stuff right now. You gotta hydrate.
Got to stay hydrated.
And I do like Buku. I mean, Buku's a great IPA, and Sockeye makes most everybody in town makes a really great IPA, and you just really can't go wrong if it's cold enough, you know.
That's true. I usually lean towards the Idaho Potato Ale from Bear Island.
Yes, she
Grab
makes
that
great
one.
beer.
Beth makes great beer.
Beth does.
Fantastic. Yeah, I like the Idaho Potato Ale because it also is an IPA
Yeah.
for short. Just the play on words cracks me up.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a slow burn. That's why it's fun. So we noticed you do like a lot of work with collaboration. So
Yeah.
we've been talking a lot. You've been working with a lot of restaurants, breweries, just local businesses as a whole. So what is one of your most favorite collaborations that you've done?
Well, I've got to say that I started. It was kind of natural to me to start working with breweries. But when Fork opened up in Boise, just before they opened up, Cameron and his chef, Wiley at the time, I believe it was, came over, and this was probably 2 months or a month before they were going to open Fork. And they asked me if I'd be willing to make product for them for their, one of their salads. And they kind of gave me an idea of what they wanted. Usually and I hadn't really considered working with restaurants before that. So that's really one that's close to my heart, because that was a real sign of how Boise is, how the community in downtown is, that someone would reach out to this weird little nut shop on Bannock Street and ask me to produce a nut for a high-end restaurant, an American, and they were really farm to fork kind of people. So that's one of my most favorite collaborations. And then, of course, Payette's dear to my heart because of the early relationship there, as Boise just started to kick off the incredible brewing community we have now. So those two are really big for me. I work with one of the ones I really like is Filson, the clothing company. They started in 1897 in Seattle, kind of outfitting gold miners and cowboys, and they've got stores all over the world. Well, apparently their creative director came through town, bought some nuts at the shop, took them back to Seattle, and they called me and asked if we'd be in their winter catalog. And I said, yeah, but we don't want to do bags of nuts. Let's do a collector's tin, because your brand is so iconic and cool. Let's make this tin. So this is our third year we're doing this really cool tin, and it goes out to like 30 stores around the country and in their winter holiday catalog. And it's going to have Wildlands, Brewers nuts, and I think it's an MFT barbecue. I work with MFT barbecue sauce and make some incredible. Those are my favorite nuts I make. And Scott just makes some great. Scott's food is amazing. But anyway, that's another story. But anyway, so working with Filson, that's a really cool collaboration, because people snap those tins up because they're so cool. And now, and last year they let me sell some in my store too.
They let you?
They let me. Well, this is a big company, and they're old and historic, and so it was really cool when I got to sell them too. And people bought them. People in Boise knew the brand well enough to buy it. So that's another collaboration, and I'll work with just about anybody who wants to try something new, just because it doesn't hurt me, and it might help them and might help us both.
And that sounds amazing. So you're just amazing in connecting and creating a strong knit community, especially with downtown restaurants, but seemingly all over Idaho. I just want to say that's fantastic, and it really helps people grow together. And
thanks.
That's super great. Is there any collaborations in the future that may be coming up that's kind of in the mix, or just kind of playing it by ear?
No, there is a guy doing some CBD stuff that wants to do a peanut butter. I think it's Happy Valley CBD that wants to do something to help people with arthritis and stuff, using a kind of a peanut compound that would be interesting. So that's something. But some of the other ones I'm working on, I can't really say too much about right now, but I've got some other good ones coming. The company Bespoke, which is a national company that does subscription gift boxes, will be doing 6,400 bags of nuts to go with something they're putting out later in the year on their subscription service out of New York City. So, thank you. I like this. This is really a nice way to talk. This is like being at home. I like it.
There you go.
Well, I mean, you keep talking about these Wildland nuts, partnering people out of Seattle, summer beer, and hey, look, Wildland nuts, beer from Seattle. So,
and Wildlands came from everybody knew Bluebird downtown, right? So Bluebird, the most incredible lunch place ever in downtown Boise, moved up on the bench and opened up Petite Four. And Sarah asked if we could do a happy hour nut for him, and I asked her what she would like to see in it, and Zach, who works for me, threw this together, and it's one of the most fabulous products we've ever put out. It's organic maple syrup, pepitas, smoked paprika, a little chili, almonds, cashews, and pecans, and it is tasty as hell.
It smells amazing before I even put it in my mouth. It's absolutely wonderful. We're pairing it with is from Freemont Brewing, their Summer American Pale Ale. I think this guy comes in right at 5.2%. So this should be a nice little summer combo here for us.
Really like that. Is that rosemary?
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic.
I forgot to mention the rosemary, the key thing. And it works pretty well with this beer. This is a nice beer.
It really is. It's a
Smooth.
phenomenal combination that we have right now.
That works insanely well.
I wish everybody out there could taste this.
Yeah.
Come on over.
Come on.
Come on down, guys. You can recreate it.
Even
Go buy some nuts. Go buy this beer.
a nice touch of spice with it too. That's fantastic.
Yeah, there's a little smoked paprika and then a little chili there too. Not too much, but it's got a nice slow burn. And the beer, what I find about the beer is it's funny if you have beer kind of pulls the spice out a little more, so it kind of makes it linger on your tongue, and it'll just kind of keep burning, kind of as a nice glow in the background.
That's a great way to describe that. Yeah, just a nice little glow that just continues to hang out with you. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. If you can get a hold of this beer combination and nut combination, you will be flying high. I guarantee. This is fantastic.
It doesn't get much better than that.
No, yeah, we're actually left a little speechless right now just because we were sitting here enjoying it so much.
Well, there's so much going on in your mouth. You know, I mean, I hate to. It sounds weird, but there's a lot of stuff going on in there with the rosemary and the spice and I get some salt coming through, and maple syrup leaves a nice sweet taste there, but not too much.
Not too much. No, adds really wonderfully to the combination. Yeah.
Man,
that's exciting.
that is a good beer.
I want that to just be my reflection of the summer right there. Wildland nuts and a summer American pale ale.
Yeah.
Doesn't get any better.
Cheers to that, huh?
I'll cheers to that.
Woo, that's good.
Sorry.
So we've got mostly the nuts here, but not only do you sell nuts of different varieties, you have a variety of different items at your stores, like the butters, the Brittles. Tell us a little bit more about that and how you decided to expand outside of just doing nuts.
Well, you know, anything
Get a little bit of sweetness.
You know, one of the guys that helped me start the kitchen in my store had a recipe for Brittle, which we've taken and changed a little bit, but it was a really good, really tasty peanut. We started doing a peanut Brittle, but I kind of like stretching boundaries a little bit, so we started using pistachios, which have a really strong flavor, so they tone down the sweetness than a typical Brittle. And then we use pecans and almonds and cashews and different things. Cashews make it real buttery because of the oil in the cashew. So we started doing these really great Brittles, and we sell a ton of it at Christmas time, and it's all hand stretched. So we have to put on a pair of thermal gloves and then rubber gloves on top of it, and then we hand stretch the Brittle, in which keeps it from being all sticky in your teeth. Most Brittles now, because it's mass produced, are poured and then just cut, and we hand stretch them and break them. So that's why they're thin and thicker in different parts, but there's little air bubbles in there, and it keeps it from sticking and being chewy. So it's really good, like old-fashioned real Brittle. And then we do a honey roasted peanut butter that I probably sell. Reed's Dairy just started carrying it and selling it to their people on the route, but it's the most addictive product we make. And it's funny, it's the grind of it's not quite crunchy, but it's not smooth, but it just makes people crazy. And I send it. There's people that we send it to, that send it to France every 2 months. They send a big order to France to some friends that insist on having it, and we ship that all over the country. And then we just started doing stuff that's kind of related to it and trying to expand some of the brand stuff a little bit. And it kind of boils down to whatever one of us gets a wild hair about. It's sort of like brewing, right? You kind of follow the trends, but also it's whatever you have a passion about or whatever you find interesting. And I tend to just try things that I find interesting.
Sounds like a great way to do business. Just sort of if it aligns with your scope, and if you're willing to experiment a little bit, you're like, hey, why not?
Yeah. You gotta
I'm super impressed with how intense the nut industry is. I guess if you can call it that. I had no idea there were so many layers. I thought it was like peanut butter, almond butter. Did you 11 years ago you started this? Did you know this much about nuts, or are you like, this is something, the family and I like it, maybe we can make it work, or have you always kind of been this knowledgeable about it?
I know way less than I should about it still, but I knew nothing at the time. There's an old peanut shop in my hometown, which is why my father would always tell me that I should open one, right? So I'd go back home. My dad's 91, by the way, and he's on the label of the Virginia Redskin peanuts in his airplane. So this is a cool story about my dad. When he was 16, World War II was going on, and he was growing up in this small farm town in Michigan, and they had a program to train kids how to fly in case they needed them for the war. So during high school at 16, he would get out of class and then go to learn how to fly in an old plane, right?
Man.
I mean, at the time, it was an old plane now, but not then. A Taylor craft. He'd learned to fly in a Taylor craft, and then by the time he graduated, World War II was over. But I've got a really cool picture of him in a World War II training plane that he bought after the war because they were just scrapping them. And it's a really cool picture of him sitting in that plane on the label of the bag, because I wanted to honor him for, pushing me to do something I never would have considered doing. I'm not a culinary. I probably have cooked 8 meals in my life that anybody would consider edible. So for me to start a food-related business is really amazing because I am not a culinary person. So I know nothing about it. So I learned. I went out and I was a competitive intelligence guy. So I did know business intelligence and competitive intelligence in the printing industry. I was an expert in that, and so and developing services around that. So what I did do was go to my hometown, park my car in front of the peanut shop, and count customers. That peanut shop had been there since 1930 something, and I just watched people go in and kind of took some numbers, and I thought, okay, so everybody spends $12 or $10 when they go there. I kind of figured it out, typical stuff that you do when you start a business. But I really had no clue about the industry, and it took me a long time to sort through all the internet searches to kind of find my suppliers and to kind of get my groove. But after a couple of years, I think we had it pretty good. I remember the Idaho Business Review wrote a really skeptical article about about a peanut shop coming to the core of downtown Boise. And Bannock Street at the time was really empty. There were like 2 businesses there, maybe 3. Luckily, the Chocolate Bar, which is an incredible place, moved around the corner and set up just after I signed my lease. They were moving into the building right next to me, or the space next to me. So we've got this synergy, and we helped to revitalize Bannock Street. I'm really proud of that, along with 10
Where
Barrel.
you should be.
And 10 Barrel came along and really helped revitalize it, because you get a brewery around the corner, you get people coming around the corner, and they're going to start shopping. So Bannock Street's a way cooler place now because we've got a little food. They called it, for a while, they're calling it Sweet Street because there were some other shops that were related to goodies there. So that's been really rewarding and fun to see downtown Boise prosper and become such a great place. I mean, we literally have one of the best downtowns in the whole damn world.
I agree.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Well, a lot of that is thanks to you, I would suppose.
Well, no, I mean, there's a lot of people involved. Dave Crick of Bitter Creek and, Fork. I mean, there's so many people that have mixed greens. I mean, these guys have all... I had no idea until I started doing small business how committed small business people are to their community and what they do to try to help the city be a better place. I mean, when you think about it, we're the face of the community. When somebody comes to Boise, Idaho, and they go into Mixed Greens, or they go into Bitter Creek, or they go into Dawson Taylor, or they go into Guru Donuts, that's the real Boise, right? It's not Ruth Chris, which is a great place, but it's not a chain place. They reflect their corporate culture. They don't reflect their local culture. And we are the face of the community. We're the mirror. When you look in it, we're Boise. And that's the thing I'm most proud of. When I started this business, I wanted to become an iconic part of the community. That's all I really cared about. And my wife's like, "Where's your business plan?" And I said, "In my head." And everybody's like, "Well, what's your goals?" I want to be iconic. And when I die, I want people to find my tins up in their attic and go, "I remember going in that place and having a really cool experience when I was 13." It's really fun. So, and that's why I'm not such a great business person, but I love it.
But you're a good person.
If you weren't a great business person, you wouldn't be able to keep this going for over a decade.
Well, somewhere there's a mix, yeah.
Somewhere you've got to have something in there. So, but appreciate the humility. So,
Of course.
was it who was the one that were skeptical? Boise Insider.
Oh, the Idaho Business Review. Because,
Idaho Business
and,
Review.
and rightly so. He wrote a really nice article, but it was like, is downtown Boise ready for a peanut shop? Well, it wasn't a category that's familiar to people. You wouldn't believe how many people came in and said, "What's a peanut shop? And do you only sell peanuts?" But in the Midwest or the southeast or on the East Coast, you would find there's still a bunch of these around, not that many. And I think we were probably the first new one in about 30 years.
Really? Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
There's been some imitators, I think, some people copying, which is fine. It's good.
That means you're doing something right if people are trying to copy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since then, you've been featured in a slew of other magazines and reviews we've noticed, which is pretty cool for a peanut shop, because who'd have known? So I saw as recently as today you were in San Diego Magazine about one of, if you spend 3 days in Boise, a place to go, and you've even been featured in Better Homes and Gardens. Is there one that you were damn, I can't believe these guys were interested?
There was, but because I'm old, I can't remember. There's a few that are really, there's been some really good ones. We've been in, I think the Visit Boise folks and the Idaho Tourism folks and the Idaho Wine Commission work really hard to try to feature local businesses and make it interesting to visitors coming into town, because they know that, people like all those folks I talked about earlier reflect the community and give people a real experience. It's not cookie cutter kind of experience. So there's been a whole bunch of them. I'm trying to think of one. And there were some, but honestly, I didn't sit down and think about it beforehand. So I'm the kind of person that kind of always looks forward and I forget about the past. So it's kind of hard for me to remember. But there's a lot of good ones, and I don't have them all listed on my website.
No worries. Still pretty neat. Yeah, Better Homes and Garden. That one was actually sort of random for me in my thought process. I was like, I didn't put them together in my mind, but it works out super well.
Well, it's been really cool because I've been able to be a part of a lot of the. I know everybody's angry about all the growth and everything, but I always say it's better to be a growing city than a dying one. And there's a lot of those around. I come from Michigan, where there's a lot of dying cities because of the auto industry and the things that happen to people. But we've been, as Boise, it's been really interesting to watch as an outside observer as Boise started to rise in notoriety and desirability. And I always knew this was going to happen. I've been here since 1981, except for those couple of years I left to go to Amsterdam. And, it was inevitable. People got mad at the mayor, get mad at the new mayor. They're mad all the time about things. But when you have a city that was smart enough, somehow Boise, Idaho has had visionary people that knew in the 70s, before all this stuff was popular and culturally cool, to have to build a green belt and start preserving open space. So suddenly we have a city that's extremely desirable to live in, and as technology changed and demographics changed, baby boomers like me start to get old and retire. Right? They can live anywhere they want to live because they took all the money from all the millennials, and then the right. And then
Hey, you said it. Yeah.
and then all the millennials that are high tech oriented or whatever, or start moving here too. So, and then technology enables it. So you have a demographic shift where you have young people and old people that are interested in the same thing, lifestyle. They want to go to events. Sorry, COVID. They want to go to trails and open space. We got it here in Boise. They want to feel an identity of a city. They want open space. They want open skies. They want to be able to walk outside and feel like they're part of a healthy lifestyle. And they have that ability to choose that. So it was inevitable that Boise was going to become this explosive place. So it was kind of interesting to watch that ramp up in the media and in all the visitors bureaus and all those folks as we started to push that. And the truth is that I probably helped enable that a little bit, and I'm sorry for those of you who don't like growth, but I'd much rather have a vibrant city than one that's suffering and hurting to find funds for the next park.
I absolutely agree. I also a transplant, but I've been here for the vast majority of my life, but from New Mexico, so it's always okay as long as it's not California, apparently. But it's okay, man. Diversity makes the city you're in a better place. It always does. It always does, and you're absolutely right. Better be in a growing city. I love Boise.
And we need young people. We need you guys, you know. Us old, I had a word there I won't use. Us old guys need to go away so the world's a better place. And, you know, you guys are the ones that are going to fix it. So I'm relying on you.
We'll do our best.
My ghost will haunt you.
All right. So now I'm excited. Let's go from that last one to a little bit of sweetness up in here. Let's talk about that Brittle, huh? So tell us about this Brittle, and the beer we have to pair with it is from Belching Beaver, the Viva La Beaver Mexican chocolate peanut butter stout.
That's one hell of a pairing. So every this kind of started because Payette asked me a long time ago if we'd do something for Black Friday. And so we decided to use their, because they do this every year, they do a black ale, right? And it's so good. And so we started making a black Brittle every year that we release just on Black Friday, and then we go in and when they have their big event at Payette, which I hope is able to happen this year, when they have a big event, we serve it, we sample it and sell it to eat with the black ale that they make, and we brand it so we get early cans of a few weeks ahead before the release, and we make a bunch of Brittle with that stout in it, and oh, it's so good. So this one, you know, we just use the stout Brittle, and this one probably has a County Line Brewing stout in it, something, I'm not sure what we used in this one, but it gives and we use a little beer malt in there also, the dark malt, and what that does is just give it that nice dark look, and then the flavor is a little richer and more toasty than a normal Brittle would be. It's not too sweet.
Yeah, that toasty quality comes right through. This is an amazing pairing, by the way. This is blowing my mind again. They complement each other so incredibly
It
well.
really is. I don't know. Belching Beaver is probably one of my top 5 favorite breweries.
Yeah.
This one a little bit more, so you know about the pairing of. Oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk. I just want to keep eating and drinking.
Dude, it's so hard to continue.
It
Like,
really
I just want
is.
to enjoy this.
But Viva La Beaver. Tell me that's not fun to say. Say it. Viva La Beaver.
I can't.
So what it is? Never mind.
I'm a grown-up. Hey, you know, I can't do it.
I'm trying so hard to behave myself
It's
right
a
now.
tough
and
one. It's
the
a
more
tough
beer we
one.
drink, the harder that becomes.
That does linger, though. I mean, that sweetness and it does complementary so well. And I've actually had that with Mother Earth Syntax also.
That would also be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes.
That's
I
a good
bet.
one.
So yeah, this one it's 7.5%. Viva La Beaver is loaded with notes of creamy peanut butter, cinnamon, and coffee. This decadent milk stout is the perfect dessert beer to finish off your meal, and our highest rated beer, receiving numerous gold and silver medals. Sink your teeth into the liquid chocolate treat.
And that cinnamon really kind of is subtle, and it really helps support the Brittle and the beer, both in each other. It's fantastic.
I found that the
magical.
cinnamon kind of lingered once we got the sugar from the Brittle in there.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed
Yeah.
to hang out a little longer.
I don't even know if I would have noticed this. I think it almost helps bring out that cinnamon more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really like it. That's a good beer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're not doing a rating, so I can't say that that's an 8.5.
Typically, when we do rate, we're kind of forgoing it on this one because it's more about your product than the beer in this case. But we use Untapped, where you can rate a 0.25 up to a 5.
I'd go
This
with
is
a
on
5 on that one. That's
There we go.
There it is. All right.
especially on a good winter night, that'd be a good one.
Oh, I 100% agree. That's the best combination. Right next to a fire, all day.
Yep. Absolutely.
So we're on the bench. That's where lounge is. Shout out to the lounge. You better come visit them.
Straight up.
Saw on their plans to maybe open a second location on the bench. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, matter of fact, you guys probably know where Quinn's is.
Yes, sir.
They sell
sir.
beer. You know, not to assume anything. So
think
next to
it's a
next to
safe one.
Quinn's, there's 2 units that go from Quinn's over towards the old Schwinn shop, which was a really cool place if you never went there.
I
I
took
did.
my bike there several times.
My friend in
yeah.
high school worked there for a
Baseball
very
gloves?
long
You buy a
time.
baseball glove there?
Sure, I played
That
baseball.
guy was
yeah.
that guy was cool. He knew his stuff. So I bought the 2 units between. So I've got one of my issues downtown is that I've got a really small space, and I'm trying to make like 100,000 bags of nuts a year by hand. And you can only literally my kitchen is way smaller than the area we're sitting in. So I bought this place up on Vista, and it's almost done. I think it's going to get painted this week, and then next week we'll start doing the finished plumbing and the finished electrical. And I'm not sure when I'll open the retail portion of it, but primarily I'm going to use it. It used to be a Domino's Pizza, and so primarily I'm going to use it for cooking in there. So we're going to do a little better production. Maybe I can increase my margins by doing something a little more effective in my production methods, and then we're going to have a small retail space up front. The parking is pretty weird right there in the front. You have to back out onto Vista, which used to be fun but not anymore. So we'll figure that out. But there's some parking in the back, and we'll do a lot of walk-up. Small retail area with limited hours, but I probably won't work on that till September, October for the retail part of it.
Okay.
Mainly it's going to be cooking, and I'm really excited to be next to Quinn's. In the 80s, we used to go up there after the bars to, get some food in you.
Absolutely.
Back
You
when
need
that
to.
was okay to do theoretically. So it's a great neighborhood, and that's my demographic. I love the bench. The bench is a great place.
I agree. I refuse to live off the bench. It's right. It's my favorite part of Boise.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't mind, let's take a quick break, and then we'll get right back at her.
All right.